on the beach. Yeah, you can trust. I'm here with Pete. We're here in Brazil. We're suffering a little bit, but we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it, guys. Got a lot going on in Brazil, so we will talk about it. Because I didn't go on the night, yeah, last week, Pete, when they had all the police operation, as they like to call it here, and a lot of people died in that. About 130 people or so. I don't think they have the official numbers yet. They keep changing. Um, and also, we had a tornado hit Brazil. So it's like, what's going on? And I was researching this tornado. Actually, I forgot to pull that up. And there's been an increase in natural disasters in Brazil. Let me see. Look at this, guys. I mean, I guess we're kind of getting right into it. And by the way, but before we get into it, I just want to say thank you, everybody that's keeping up with the show. Watch last week's episode, or not last week's, but the last episode was really great. Talked about everywhere in Bahia, and I want to have Jamie back on and talk about his other trips around the world. So thank you for joining in for that conversation. It was really fun. I learned so much. We had our professor here who was talking about indigenous culture, and actually I had a comment there. Somebody left a comment on the page about, you know, stop or be honest, or somebody was trying to say I was lying. Why? Because Pardo exists in Brazil, and I think in the show uh, he mentioned that he was indigenous, and he's like, no, he's not. He's Pardo, whatever. Guys, one thing that I like about the Brazil Expat Journal is that we get a lot of different perspectives. Like, for example, my friend Dave, who Pete has met, he's going to the same area that the guy Jamie said was the word. He had all positive things to say until he got to Serra Grande, and then he kind of shit on the place, which is fine. Like, that was his experience. My friend Dave has been there various times. In fact, he invited me to go with him now in December because he wanted to drive up there. But I just got stuff down here that I got to take care of. So I said no, but man, did I want to go. You're like, if I could, maybe I'll change my mind. I don't know. But he's going up there. Why? Because he loves it. Like, he's buying property. Like, he's thinking about buying more property up there. He loves it so much. So everybody's experience is different. And that even gets into when we talk about race. What I loved about that episode about indigenous culture is that we have Pete that has indigenous background. And even if he didn't, he grew up in Canada. So he's a smart guy. Maybe he knows a little bit about the history of indigenous people there. But that's a perspective. And I learned some stuff I didn't know. It's very different than America and what happened to Native people in America and how they see themselves in the culture. Like, they're totally separate. They're like, we want nothing to do with the white man. Like, zero mixing, zero anything. And then you get Brazil, where it's that thing where it is all mixed up, and some of it for really bad reasons, because the Europeans wanted to rape their way into the majority population. So there's a lot of that going on, but some of it just because two people met and hey, love is grand, and there's a lot of mixing, and there's still, and I think what makes it confusing is that in the mix of all that mix, there's still actual, like, almost 100% indigenous. Like, this is, haven't mixed in generations. So it's such a blend down here. And whenever I give my perspective, obviously it's going to come from an American perspective because I grew up there. Even though I am Brazilian, I was born in Brazil, but my mind thinks more American. The way I interact with people is American. But I've been here long enough in Brazil and learned enough about the culture that I like to get that perspective too. And sometimes it even changes me in some ways. Other times it doesn't, like with Pardo. I get what the lady said in the comment, and it's gonna take me a minute to pull it up, so I'm not even gonna pull it up. But she just said, Pardo is our reality. Pardo really does exist, and I have the opposite feeling about it, And then when you look up the word Pardo and where it comes from, it's a European invention to describe these mixed people, but that's a, there's a lot of like layers to that. When you are given a designation by another group, does that make it that designation? And one thing that I've noticed since I've been in Brazil for the last, wow, Pete, it's been since 2008. I'm not that good at math. It's been a while. So, and one thing that I've noticed here is the increase of people that are light skinned. And Pete's told this story about, the husband and wife that he's taught and how they both saw themselves differently. Uh, but it's the needle has been going more towards people that are even lighter than me, saying, yeah, I am indigenous, or yeah, I am black, because that's where like the tan kind of started from, that I have. So they're IDing as this, and they're kind of not necessarily considering that Pardo a thing anymore. And for me, it was offensive when I got down here, and the guy was like, "Are you a Pardo?" I was like, "What?" First, I was like, "What the fuck is a Pardo?" And then when she explained it to me, it just felt icky. It felt like a government designation. So that's why, for the first time in my life, and I've said this many times, Brazil was the first place I ID'd strongly as black. Like I felt it in the US, especially after I moved out of the house and went to university and got to be around um, more black communities. And then I was like, yeah, I feel it. But I've always kind of held this kind of Star Trek, we're all human, the human race type of philosophy. So I never really like, it's like I recognize that I am this, and it does come with its benefits, but also its drawbacks. I get it, but at the same time, I don't live my life as I am black and then everything else. It's like, yeah, I am Phil, and then there's a lot of other things going on, including the color of my skin. So that's how I've always lived, and I'm still kind of like that, except that Brazil, due to the racism that I felt down here, like I felt it on my skin, no pun intended, like they say here in Portuguese, senti na pele, which I had never really felt in the US. Like I knew it existed, but I managed to make my way through life there, like not ever really having to stop and think about, oh, that was something racist that happened. Here it's like every other fucking day. Brazil is way more racist than the US will ever be, because it's systemic down here. The people don't even realize that they're in this prison, in this Pardo world. So that's what Pardo represented to me as a word. And I said, you know what? I'm black. I put down black. And that's the first time that I've ever really had to assert myself, because I saw it as a political action here. Because if I see myself as black, I'm one more person in the census that says they're black, and that needle keeps turning. In Brazil, maybe we'll start to wake up and realize that you're a country built on the backs of black folks, because you're the country that enslaved the most black people in the whole wide world. And you're the country that ended slavery the last of the whole wide world. And you're also the country that has a town called Americana that's about 2 hours here from Sao Paulo, that invited Confederates down here. Not saying that everybody that was Confederate was an evil racist, but there were quite a few, right? There were quite a few. And they all came down here. And what were they down here for? What could they do down here? Because slavery hadn't ended it, they could continue fucking slavery. So maybe it's important for me to put black down and not fucking Pardo, right? To recognize that and say, hey, we are a greater number, and we have a voice, we have social power, we have financial power, or we want to get more, so that's why I don't ride with Pardo. But that's my perspective. That's how I feel based on my experiences down here. Pete, I'm sure, has a different experience. This lovely lady, and it all ended in pizza, as they say down here, because I got a little, I gave her a little kickback for saying, hey, don't call me dishonest. And yeah, I think part of it was bullshit. But I did it very politely, I hope, because she said, oh, I'm sorry if I came off a little, badly, but I get what you're saying. And the thing with this show, guys, I want to hear all these perspectives. I think part of it was bullshit, but if you don't, I respect that. And you can have your reasons. It doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with it. And I would never just shit on it openly just because, if somebody asks me, I'm going to be honest about my opinion. But it's not like I wake up in the morning and tell every Pardo person, hey, you're an idiot for believing. No, that's just not my style. I'm not that way about anything. But if you ask me, I do have a mouth, as you can see, because I've been talking for about 10 minutes, and I will give you my opinion, and I'll do it as politely as possible. Um, I went off on a rant there, Peter. Can I ask you how you've been? I'm going to go on mute for a little bit and let Peter take the stage.
Yeah, no, things been, I don't know, kind of rough lately. The school I was working for went out of business, and I've been looking for new jobs, but it seems like a lot of the people out there now hiring for English teachers really looking for the right documentation, particularly the CNJ, which is what basically allows companies to bill you legally as a freelance employer for tax reasons. So that's been kind of an obstacle. I've had some private students had to quit for financial reasons, training reasons, and I'm also going blind, which is not really a great thing because I kind of need my eyesight for work, among other things, walking, eating, entertainment, pretty much everything. So yeah, I've kind of been dealing with a lot, but yeah, the work things kind of it's picked up, and as it's picked up, other things have dropped off. So it's kind of even at the moment. I'm relying a lot on consulting work through the same company that Jay, who was on our last show, works at as well. When business is good there, I really have no worries. I practically don't even need to teach, but teaching is something I kind of need to be steady and stable because the consulting work isn't stable. So you need that coming in. So this month, the consulting work has been okay, but I really need some private students to generate some cash, and I could use another regular school job to have some stability. And I need to get my freaking eyes fixed, which has been quite the chore. Optometrists, most of them cost money, which I don't have a lot of. There is a hospital, a clinic in Villa Mariana, actually, that has an optometrist. I've been there twice, and I haven't been able to see her. It's been chaos. I was there all day today, from 11 in the morning until 4:30. I figured that would be enough time because I had one class today at 7 p.m. I was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to be out there all day. But I was, largely because they sent me to the wrong place. When my number was called after a few hours, I went to where they sent me, and it was not for the optometrist. So I had to complain about that. And then they took me somewhere else, and I waited and waited, and that wasn't the right place either. And then I had to go. And this is 2 days now that I've done this. So I'm thinking of going to see. I did a Google search, and there are some private practitioners that at least do free exams. So I might go do one of those, and then treatment is probably not free if there is treatment, but they can maybe at least point me in the direction of where I can get some kind of treatment or proper glasses. I don't know what I need. I mean, if I have cataracts, if it's laser surgery or needles in the eyeball or what. But good Lord, my right eye is like almost completely non-functional.
Wow, you're going to be like Captain Hook.
Yeah.
But dude, I'm gonna. You got to see that SEMA. Yeah, I got to figure out. I'll talk to you later and try to help you with that. But I can also hook you up with the CNPJ stuff. I think I misunderstood you when you said that. I think I may be able to help you out with that. But guys, Pete's story it is an interesting one because a lot of people that are thinking of coming down here, they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna teach English," and dude, this year has been difficult. Um, all around, and I when I think it's just me, then I talk to other people. It may be a little harder for some, a little, kind of just stable, nothing happening for some, but I don't see a lot of people who kind of just wow, things are popping off. They're just kind of on the same level, and that's kind of because that's where the country is right now. It's just kind of on the same level. and it's a tough time to come down here, and even I was talking, Pete, to um, our buddy Gringo Nashapa. Oh my God. And I just talked to him. Justin. It's a lot of names, people. Um, and he's doing some interesting stuff with coffee and stuff, and even just in general, he's a kind of an industrial guy. And he's like, yeah, that's why I kind of have this feeling that like things aren't moving as fast. Like Brazil's already slow if you're trying to get into investing and really building down here. But then when the market is as sluggish as it is, as everything is as sluggish as it is, which is a kind of a world phenomenon, but Brazil having a weaker economy kind of feel it more. Um, Everybody's just kind of walking on eggshells. We're not trying to do anything too extravagant, you know? Like I'm counting my pennies this year. Luckily, last year was really like a good year financially, and I was able to save a lot. And that's carried me through this year because, Pete, I was at a moment when I had like this year, I think in July, I quit. Well, I didn't quit my job, but I cut my hours in half, and I went into vacation on the hope that I would find students in like during that vacation. And I really had nothing going. Like I was just like, okay, I'm gonna create ads on YouTube. Like I'm just gonna try to. I need to find some students because my salary just got cut in half basically. Um, and fortunately, I did that video. So thank you, Jordan. Jordan, who's a big partner of ours at Clube do Bem, Conexão 337, a lot of cultural work. He was making a series of videos, and he asked me to do one with him. Like we had kind of scheduled it a while back, and then we did it. And actually, I think I talked about it on the show because there was that security guard that was trying to get us off the fucking lawn, which was another whole other story. Um, and because of that video, it like kind of went viral, quote unquote, about like 16,000, whatever, 70,000 views. And I got a few students off of that video. And I was like, man, right on time, So sometimes things, if you're the type of person that keeps working towards stuff and don't give up and it seems like things sometimes just fall into your lap at the right time, just when you need it. So you got to kind of have that spirit down here, guys, because it can get rough if you're like really living in Brazil. By the way, hello, life is 9076. We are going to talk about Brazilian folklores, guys, but tonight's kind of just a little freewheeling a little bit because we got no guests, although I think I might have a wonderful guest coming up shortly for you guys, but I don't want to give too much away. So we were talking, well, I was talking about just racial differences, and then Pete was talking about his current situation. So when you come down here, guys, come prepared. Okay, if you're thinking long term, even if you're earning in dollars. But something that happened last week, and Life is actually commented about that. He was curious about the gang stuff down here. And guys, I have an opinion on it, but I'm not gonna give. I'll try not to give my very personal opinion, and just say in general. Okay, like when you have these kind of, because you can get really scared sometimes when you read this stuff. In general, this is stuff that's been going on for a while. First off, we always talk about movies. We're going to have our movie episode coming up. Don't worry, it's going to be the last of the year. I think I'm going to do maybe that, just one more BJ, by the way, guys, because I'm really, really tired. Because I got those hours back that I quit at the beginning of the year. And it's like my whole world turned upside down. I got sick, blah, blah, blah. Man, anyway. But this stuff has been going on for years, and that's why I'm in a WhatsApp group. Some folks were like, man, it seems like people in Rio are just like whatever, like 190 or 130 people died. And it's like, okay, and life goes on. Like people are still going to the shop, and like imagine if in one day 190 people got shot by the police in New York City. Like the whole country would stop. Like there would be protests. There would be, and in Rio, it's just like, okay, life goes on. So you can't judge what's going on down here by first world glasses, because it's not comparable. You may hate the current administration. You may have hated the last administration, but one thing is true: there is a semblance of law and order. Maybe one side pushes it a little bit more than the other, but that even with everything going on, whether it's protesting this or protesting that, you kind of feel a sense of safety, when you're walking around in most first world countries. People can say that's changed in the last couple of years, but in general, I think people don't walk out of their house thinking, "Oh, I'm going to get mugged today," or a bus might catch on fire today, or you know whatever. It's not a reality. It's just like I can't imagine what it must be like to live in some countries in the Middle East and know that you might get bombed out of existence, just because you're walking to school, whatever. It's not something we can compute. So when you come down here to Brazil and you're having the vacation time of your life, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. There's a whole turf war happening up on those hills that's been going on since the 1960s. So, and it's like guerrilla warfare type. It's not like Bloods and Crips, like it's like actual guys with AKs on top of the hills. Who, if you do some of the reading on when these very big gangs begin, you see that there's connections to guerrilla groups in the 60s, so they're politicized and mostly connected to the left because those were the groups that were trying to fight the dictatorship. That's just facts. So if you get offended that I said that, that's just what it is, because those were the groups trying to take down the more right-wing dictatorship. It was the left. And they trained a lot of these guerrilla groups that eventually morphed into these gangs. In Rio, in Sao Paulo, it started a little bit later. And these gangs did start inside of the prison systems down here, where they were militarized. Okay, and if you look at these pictures, this is militarized gangs. It's a fact. So when you are judging, at least for me, I shouldn't speak for you guys, but at least when I am judging what is going on in Rio de Janeiro, that's been going on for quite some time, I judge it based on the Brazilian perspective of what this stuff is, whether you agree with it or not, whether you think it's unjust or not, but you gotta look at it from that lens. And at least I think you got to look at it from that lens. I can't tell you what to think, but yes, like life has gone on. Like we're kind of over it. Even I was reading an article about this. Like life goes on in those two favelas after the death of 130 people. And you're like, how? Because they realize they're caught in the middle of a war zone. It's almost like Israel Hamas. Like they're both kind of bad players, and they really are. And then there's the people stuck in the middle, that have to suffer due to this. It's like an actual turf war. That's the only way I can describe it. It's not the same as 20 city cops go raid a house in Southwest Philly. It's not on the same level. This is like tanks are rolling down the street. This is guys in helicopters because the members of these gangs own the top of the hills. They have the higher vantage point. Like Obi Kenobi said, I have the higher ground, so they're up there and shooting down. So they have actual man, it's insane the stuff they have. They have these like little bazookas that shoot down these helicopters. And where are they getting these armaments? That's a question, that people don't like to go deep into, which that's why I recommend watching Tropa de Elite 2. Tropa de Elite 2 kind of gives its opinion of what's going on, which I think is wonderful, but dangerous, which is why I'm kind of, I'm glossing over. I feel a little bit of tension talking about this, because I want nothing to do with any of that stuff. But the writer, the director of that movie, he moved to the U.S. and he has said because of the pressure he felt down here, because he's from Rio. I think he ended up directing the RoboCop reboot, but that didn't go over too well. So So it's a different perspective, guys. It's like when you read on the news in the US about the cartels in Mexico, and they kill politicians, and they have the man, that's what it's like down here. It's like Gotham City. It's not the same level. So yeah, I don't want to say too much more than that. I don't want to give like my very, very personal opinion. You can make up your own minds about what it is. But life has gone on. Okay. And in probably another 3 years, it'll happen again. I was actually involved in one of these things. I was in Capão Redondo, visiting my father, before he passed away. And I was there with my little sister. She was 10 at the time. And we were just, I was helping her to read. We're sitting there, doing a little reading book, whatever business on the couch. And man, out of nowhere, like you saw that the favela, first off, we noticed the favela got empty. Like, boom, this is Capão Redondo. So like, we were like where she lives, boom, in there. And then it's like, when you turn on the light and the cockroaches, or whatever, rat, whatever. Well, maybe bad analogy because we're talking about people, but everybody just. So we went inside, and that's exactly, we're just sitting there. And man, the police came in like four big ass motherfuckers with big guns, everything. And I just told her, I put my arm around her and said, just stay calm. We got nothing. We don't owe any, like they say in Portuguese. Não devo nada, não tenho medo de nada, something like that. Like, I'm not afraid of anything. I don't owe anybody shit, so I ain't afraid. So I just held on to her. They walked in. They went all the way to the back in the kitchen. Walked out. Boom. That's it. Okay. And I found out later that was a mega operation. That was like a 4-day operation that the police did to clean out a lot of these guys. And guys, it's a cycle. That's why, it's like for me, the people that I feel sorry for, the people in the middle, because it's a cycle. It's just like, let's use another parallel, that Israel Palestine situation going on. Maybe you heard of it, but we know that Israel helped put Hamas in power because it was a necessary enemy for them to do the horrible things that they did after, and have like a reason to do it. So there's a lot of this going on. Like one hand shakes the other, and they're all caught in this stupid game, and the people in the middle are the ones that suffer. And Anthony McGrew said many arms have said to be made. Yes. Interesting, right? Who's benefiting from all this? Because there's a lot of money moving around. So I don't want to say too much more. Right? Is it safe to visit favelas even if visited by someone who lives there? Listen, I'll be honest, I have no problem saying it. I'm scared shitless to go up into a real favela. People have gone up there. They said they even do those favela tour stuff, which I'm totally against because it's like zoo animals, like anyway. But if you dig it, that's the higher favela tour, and you can get up there. They have some favelas that are considered peaceful. They're like pacified. They call them pacificadas, and they have a lot of parties up there. We had Marcos on, and he talks about a lot of these places, which is like those are safe to go up to. They're like tourist favelas, more or less, and they have these huge parties up there. But again, they have kids with the AKs out. I know because friends of mine have gone, and they're like, yeah, it's just like in the movies. Like you're in the middle of the funk party, everybody's having a good time, but you are surrounded by AKs, on each side. Here in Sao Paulo,
It depends on the favela, though. I mean, like you can't really group all favelas into one category. They all have their own different character, different
well,
types
Sao
of
Paulo
people.
does.
Yeah.
I think Sao Paulo is very different from Rio. Like you're never gonna see open arms here in Sao Paulo. It's actually a big infraction. I got a couple friends that live in the nearby Quebrada, and I used to damn near live there because I have family there. Um, and they say, yeah, no, this dude got shot the other day because he pulled out a gun. So you're not like Sao Paulo's a bit slicker, with how the factions run here. Here, we saw on the news that they were caught up in the Bitcoin restaurants. Actually, like I pulled something up here because I was watching or reading, I should say, about how, oh, that's natural disasters that have gone up, but no, I had something here about how factions have gone up. Okay, but I'll leave that on the screen. But I think it was on my phone. That's why I got that mixed up. Let me see here. Man, it's kind of like crazy how the amount of criminal factions have risen. According to 2025, by the way, guys, what do you call it? Just so you know, this is just I asked ChatGPT how many criminal factions are in Brazil right now, and is there a rise? In fact, let me see if I can. Oh, there you go. I can share it directly from my computer. Okay, so you're going to follow along. Honest reporting. Yes, I just asked how many criminal factions. Here's the latest publicly available evidence. According to 2025, there are more than 80 organized criminal groups in Brazil, 72 linked to drug trafficking, and approximately 88 active factions in prison blocks. Okay. Is there a rise? Yes, data suggests that criminal factions are expanding in reach, even if the exact number is hard to pin down. 2025 poll found that 19% of Brazilians live in areas under the influence of organized crime. And that's where I saw this morning on the news, where they're saying how the Comando Vermelho is in 70 cities of Rio de Janeiro, and Rio de Janeiro's got like 90 some cities, so it's like a lot of turf, you know. And then here they go into faction, what does it mean, blah 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 blah, and some of the stuff, we were talking about, crypto businessman killed in apparent assassination in Sao Paulo, and then yeah, here it gives you a little bit of history on how Comando Vermelho is connected to some guerrilla groups back in the 60s, and the São Paulo is more in the 2000s, and they operate very differently. So what Pete said is correct when he goes São Paulo, Rio. But in Rio, even in the pacified favelas, it's like they have a deal almost with the police, and they're like, okay, they're still gonna have their guns out, but it's like they understand that's there almost for show. I mean, well, I don't want to say that, but they're just not shooting each other out, because what's going on most of the time, guys, that's the reason why these police operations happen, is that there's some type of gang war going on, and it's like they're fighting for turf. It's almost like you're going back to the 1920s, 1930s, watching The Godfather and stuff like that. It's just turf wars, and then it gets out of hand, and then the police have to go in and massacre people, and if you want to see a really scary image, look up uh, dead bodies of people lying from police operation or something like that. Just put that on Google, and you're going to see it's an actual picture. It's not AI, of all these bodies strewn across the ground of the people that were killed. Well, yeah, life is that ask about the favelas. How was it like in São Remo? Because you lived in there, Peter.
São Remo was pretty chill, but I stayed mostly to the street that I lived on. When you enter, because I lived in like a new apartment complex that was built on the favela. I think they're trying to develop some of the more less desirable areas out by putting new modern buildings in there. So I lived in one of those, and I stayed on my street. It was fine. The only gunfire I ever heard came from the firing range at the police station that was located next to the favela. I think that helped too, having a police station right next door to the favela. But the one time that I went further up, I did get harassed a bit, like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here, kind of thing. So no, we didn't have like any of the gang violence or police raids or shootouts or anything. But it was definitely an area where everybody knew everybody, and if you're at a place, you're not particularly welcome there. I do still go through there at times, though, like because I sometimes shop at the wholesale grocer that's located sort of on the perimeter of the favela. And yeah, there's some cheap places. I used to go grab some fast food there. So it's fine, but the deeper in you go, the dodgier it gets.
Yeah, my mic was muted. Yeah, that's usually how it is in favelas. It's like if you're not from there, you really like, why would you be there? It'd be almost like if somebody traveled to the US and they're like, I really want to go to like the ghettoest ghetto. Like, why? Unless there's like a cool party. We all know like the best house parties, West Philly. West Philly was dangerous as hell. But that's where I was because that's you had the good parties over there. You know, the Jamaicans knew how to put some good parties. By the way, peace and blessings to the Jamaicans, and thank you. There's a brother that was on my live on Instagram this Friday. By the way, Instagram Phil OFC. All right, follow me, guys. On Friday, I usually try to go online and talk to folks a little bit about Brazilian culture because on my Instagram I put a lot about where I'm going, where I've been, some music, so it's a little bit more culturally designated. But I just want to give a shout out to MCG, okay, who's coming in Brazil, and we connected on the live, and he just wanted to give a shout out to folks out in Jamaica due to the hurricane. We're going to talk about some crazy weather in Brazil too. But Anthony says here in Salvador, factions are on the rise. Yeah. They have moved here from Rio, and 20 were killed in the state of Bahia since the Rio event. Yeah, guys, it's just something that it's always present because, even as Anthony says this, Anthony was on the show. He lives in the middle of a community. Yeah. Comunidade Dois, is it the name? I always forget the name. Um, and it was chill. It was chill as hell, and that's like a regular favela. It's not like Gamboa, which is a touristy favela for real. And if although that place got a little dodgy after it gets dark, so leave before it gets dark. Um, so to answer your question, life is like, why are you going? Really? Like, why would you go? Like, unless, like you said, there are some famous favela parties in Rio, and people do go up there. I would definitely hire an Uber or like talk to somebody that knows somebody that's trustworthy to get you up and bring you back down. Um, Pete, like you said, okay, you can definitely get some cheaper stuff in some of the favelas. So if it's not that much of a hassle to like walk a kilometer or two and you want to go to the cheaper grocery store, yeah. But again, like you don't want to go too deep in because you're like, I don't know these people. It's the same like in Capo Redondo. Whenever I went there, I kind of just stayed around this kind of 500-meter radius where my dad lived. Every once in a while, my little cousin or my brother or something, we'd go to a party, but I ain't trying to walk around Capo Redondo by myself. One, because it's a fucking maze. You'll probably get lost. And two, because it's just like stepping into somebody's house. Like, hey, what are you doing here? I don't recognize you. Like. So I tend to stay away. But I mentioned Jamaica real quick, and we will get to these folkloric creatures. I'm gonna like run through them, guys, so we're not on all night. But I love the topic. Um, where is it? I'm trying to share the screen. There it is. Something else that's on the rise. So what's going on in Brazil? That's kind of like the question of, man, is Brazil still worth coming down to? Coming down to. And look at this. Yes, natural. Because I read an article about this, so I just put increase in natural disasters in Brazil. I try to be as non-partisan as possible here, not unbiased as possible. But says yes, natural disasters have increased significantly in Brazil with 460% rise in climate-related disasters since the 1990s. This surge is linked to global
They're
warming.
increasing around the world, though.
Exactly. Exactly. But it seemed, Pete, that for a while we were kind of like surviving it a little bit. Like it didn't seem like it was that much. But then there was a flooding here that was kind of big and a I remember like the first time I heard about a mudslide here. I think I'd been here like for 2 years. I think it was pretty tragic, dude. It was either in Minas or like in the state of Rio. Um, Look at this. From 2020 to 2023, Brazil has experienced 7,539 climatic disasters. This figure shows a surge of 222.8% compared to the 1990s. Um, so it didn't seem like it was that often. Like there was like stuff that would happen, but I'd be like, oh, okay, whatever, it's just like a one-off. Or okay, São Paulo floods a little bit, definitely because of how it's built over rivers. Okay, but like life went on. But then it seemed like it was another one, and another one. There were strong winds here. A whole tree blew down in front of my house, damn near. That I think Brazil is now catching up to the world, dude. I don't know, because it's a whole tornado thing. Like that's out of this world. This is stuff like this looks like Hurricane Katrina level event here. And that's like really, like that's one of the selling points of Brazil. It's like, yeah, we're land that doesn't really have to deal with hurricanes and tornadoes and all this stuff that the US, oh, look at this. That's kind of cool. It's a supercell. But yeah, it looks like a nuclear explosion there. But look at that. But that was like kind of one of the selling points, because okay, you can go to the Caribbean, but there's going to be like 2 months out of the year that you're going to be shitting your pants. And in Brazil, it's like, no, you get good weather year round. And the weather, okay, it's going to be hotter, but it is what it is. There might be a couple strong rainstorms, but you'll be fine. Like, you don't have to worry about losing your entire life in some natural disaster. I don't know, Pete. Like, that's been my impression. You got a different? Have you felt different? Have you always felt Brazil was kind of climatically challenged?
Certain regions, but that's something I've just become aware of in recent years. So maybe it's just recent developments because I know last year the school I was working for was located in Rio Grande do Sul, and a lot of my students were as well, and they just had the year from hell last year. They were just getting bombarded by storms and floods and power outages. I knew people that were without power and internet for days. So, yeah, I didn't really give much thought to the weather until I started working with a business and students based in Rio Grande do Sul, which just seems to get the worst.
Go ahead. Oh, Rio Grande do Sul. Yeah, that area does really. Let's see. Oh, yeah. The biggest natural disasters in Brazil are floods. So these are like some of the biggest ones that have happened. 2024, yeah, like what you just said, Rio Grande do Sul floods. 2011, Rio de Janeiro. I think that's the one I was thinking about. These mudslides. That was tragic. 2022. Oh, no, it's actually this Petropolis one. It was really crazy. Yeah. Uh, Droughts. Well, Brazil's always dealt with droughts and flash floods. But look at this, guys. 2011, there was this mudslide in Rio that really, look at that, destroyed a whole lot of people's lives and homes and everything. Really sad. And then there was this one in Petropolis, which is a city just outside of Rio. A lot of people say a lot of good things about this. And I remember this because I had a Facebook contact, a friend that lived in this area. And luckily she survived it. She was okay, but it really devastated this region. So just be aware of that. I think one of the reasons why, oh, we had an almost, yes, I remember the earthquake. That was crazy too. I forgot to mention earthquakes. Like, that's another thing, California needs to deal with that. Okay. You may live in, luxury, but you got to always have that in the back of your mind. And Brazil's like, no, even, I know Godzilla did come down here. Yeah, I forgot about that little detail. I was going to say not even Godzilla comes down here, but I think he came down here in the second Godzilla versus Kong movie. Anyway, so keep this in mind. Why did this like become a story for me? And I wanted to mention it alongside the stuff with the factions is because just something to keep in mind when you move down here. It's like you are free to move about, but just realize also there's a lot of things going on around you that you're not aware of, and you shouldn't be aware of. And and sometimes you're made not aware of on purpose because they're kind of ugly things. But sometimes you just can't hide them, and they happen, and you're like, oh my god. It doesn't mean that now I can't go to my favorite cafe in Zona Sul or whatever it is that you're living in, Rio or Sao Paulo, whatever. That's one thing. The other thing is, like, I was mentioning my friend Dave, and a lot of people move down here and they want to live the free life out in the with nature and get away from the capitalist warlords and blah blah. Wonderful. But just realize that you might get caught in a flash flood and die. You know, prepare yourself. Okay, it's not just like let's go out freely and be stupid. You got to plan. So Brazil is not an easy country to handle. Even if you're trying to live the normie life, it's not hard to handle. Imagine trying to live the woodsy. Let's try to make it happen. Like there's bugs you've never seen in your life. There's you know that temperature, man, it's a killer. Like it's not just hot a little bit. You can have droughts, you can have these heavy rain seasons. Like it's a lot to consider if you're trying to live a little bit off the grid. And I know a lot of people come to Brazil to live off the grid. Try semi off the grid first and see how that goes. um, Try that out. Like I like that. Talking a lot about Dave. Shout out to Dave. But he lives in a city close. It's like the next city over from me, and it's like this kind of secluded house. He's like he's got termites, he's got a lizard, he's got monkeys, he's got all this big yard. But it's with inside of a closed community. It's safe. There's a little bit of structure. So I don't know if he planned that, but had it been me, I would have kind of planned that. Like, let me see what it's like. Just dip my toe into like the rugged life before I go 100%. Which is kind of like what I've been doing. I've mentioned on the show before. It's like when I first moved here, I was kind of central, and then I moved a little bit further away and a little bit further from the center. And I'm about 40 minutes from downtown, but I'm thinking about even going further out. But it's like baby steps because it's not always an easy ride down here. And Pete, do you know what makes the ride easier?
What is
Don't
that?
say whores. Don't say whores, but they do
Mm.
help. Uh, Believing in something. Believing in something. Superstitions. Brazilians are very superstitious, and that like, man, we talked about so many terrible things, and the thing that's most amazing is how resilient Brazilians are. And it's like, okay, just another day. By the way, guys, I keep talking about this series. I gotta get down and watching it at some point. Invisible City, you know, had three nominations total for what? Let's see what it got nominated for. Cinema Brazil Grand Prize, TV Best Cinematography, and Best Miniseries in Brazil. So it's a series that deals with this guy. Apparently, I'm gonna watch it one of these days. I'll tell you if I like it. After family tragedy, a man discovers mythical creatures living among humans, and soon realizes they hold the key to his mysterious past. But these creatures, and that's the part that makes me want to watch this series. They're all kind of Brazilian mystical creatures. Let me see if they have any pictures as a. Oh, they just have that. Yeah, see, they're out in the Amazon, and apparently he runs into some mystical creatures of the forest. So I like the premise, you know, and we'll be talking about a few of these creatures tonight. And I think it's important if you want to get to know Brazil, you got to know a little bit of its more mystical culture. It's a lot of fun. The Brazilians are super superstitious, guys. Oh, there you go. There's a tornado. Oh, by the way, yeah, just to finish out, there was a tornado in Paraná. I have family down there. This is far away from where they live, and it's like, what the hell? A tornado? You know? But let's go. The first one, kind of controversial. Let's start here. Negrinho do Pastoeiro, like the pastor's little black boy. And it says here that it's a popular legend, especially in the south of Brazil. Okay, the little black shepherd boy. Originated during the time of slavery and has strong Catholic influences, the story centers on a young enslaved boy who, after losing a herd of horses, is brutally punished by his cruel master and left to die on an anthill. Man, Pete, that sounds like candy, man. Uh, the next morning, the master finds the boy standing unharmed, surrounded by the lost horses, with the Virgin Mary beside him. The boy then rides off on a lost horse. He's now considered a saintly figure who helps people find lost belongings if they light a candle for him. Now, Pete, how do you feel about this little? You're gonna notice a lot of these stories are really out there, dude.
Yeah,
Some of them
I
are very
mean,
violent.
yeah, I mean, obviously, it's an offshoot of Christian mythology, so I think it's just a case of people inserting a bit of their own culture into the traditional mythology.
Well, yeah, there's definitely what's it called? Synchronism, they call it? Syncretism, I can never pronounce that correctly, where like religions merge. And
Mhm.
Brazil is a test case for this, man. Because the African religions and the Catholic religion just merged. Why? Because it was illegal to do the African religions. So the Africans started to use the Catholic saints as stand-ins for their gods, Shun, Yamanja, whatever. And so it never kind of unloosens after that. So you have this slave story of the slave that becomes a saint, and which is like definitely I don't know if the Catholic Church would approve of that, uh, but it makes sense in the Brazilian context. And in the end, he's helping people find lost belongings if they light a candle for him. So it's like it's a lot for this kid that got brutally enslaved. But I wonder, Pete, if lighting this candle has any connotation with like slaves escaping in the night and stuff like that, what the things that they need to find. But I found this to be a really kind of all the stories, the weirdest one, the Negrinho do Pastoeiro. Next, yeah, these are all kind of ghastly. We got the Corpus Seco, Pete. It's a moralistic tale about the ultimate damnation. It tells of a man who was so wicked and abusive to everyone, including his own parents, that when he died, neither heaven nor hell would accept his soul. To complete his curse, the earth itself rejected his body, spitting it out from the ground. Now he wanders the countryside as a dried up, tormented corpse, eternally seeking a tree trunk to cling to. Again, guys, it's the Halloween spirit. I love this story. It's so urban legend, and like I need the movie. I need the movie version of this. Um, and I don't know. Here in Brazil, this area called the Sertão is full of legends like this because the Sertão, guys, is what we would call the outback. It's the Brazilian outback. So there's so much vast desert land, and so it's really it's like fermenting ground for all of these folk tales. And again, this is to keep those kids in bed at night. Don't wander off too far. But I love the Corpus Seco. And a few of these were new to me. In fact, these first three, the top ones I kind of knew already. But I like this one. Boitata is an impressive creature from Tupi folklore, so that's indigenous folklore. And its name is the fiery snake or thing of fire. It's typically described as a giant luminous snake with eyes like twin beacons of flames, sometimes said to be collected eyes of animals from a great flood. The Boitata is a protector of fields and forests against people who set fires, and its legend asserts that anyone who sees it should remain still, close their eyes, and hold their breath to avoid going blind, insane, or dying. Pete, have you ever had enough drugs that you came close to seeing a Boitata in the woods?
No, but I've had some close encounters with some pretty big snakes. Actually, it's just a natural natural byproduct of living in the middle of a jungle in Thailand.
Oh yeah, you were in Thailand. Did Thailand have any of these forest protectors? There's a lot of forest protecting creatures in Brazilian
You know,
folklore.
I'm sure because Thailand's a really religious country, very Buddhist.
Yeah,
It's their own unique take on Buddhism. I'm sure
yeah.
they had all kinds of animal spirits and folklore. They're always lighting, candles and leaving out food for spirits and whatnot. So I'm sure they had tons of these things.
Yes, I'm so
But
glad you
nothing
said.
scarier than the real thing, man. When you see like a 2 meter python slithering down the main street, popping its hood and hissing and shit. That's a lot scarier than any animal spirits.
Yeah, than any spirit. I feel you. It's so funny that you say this about the food because my mom used to do that. Like, she used to make me get little pieces of chocolate and stuff and put it out in the yard for the children. She would say, "It's for the spirit of the children." That shit would freak me out. Yo, childhood traumas, man, coming back to haunt me. When that little horse died and the never-ending story. I was like 8 years old, man. That hurt. And then, what is it? My mom had garlic keys. She used to put garlic and keys under my bed because the keys were silver to protect me from vampires and werewolves. And then as I got older, then I had to deal with the spirits in our backyard, and I had to give them food. I'm like, I turned out okay. Oh, I forgot to move her down to the bottom. Sorry, but there you go. Victoria Rishi. I thought it was 10. I'm like, why am I starting at 9? But anyway, let's get there. The legend of Victoria Regia is a romantic Tupi indigenous story that explains the origin of the massive Amazonian water lily. The tale recounts a beautiful young indigenous warrior named Naya who was obsessed with the moon, Jasi, which she believed was a male god. She dreamt of touching him, and after seeing the moon's reflection in the river, she tragically dove in, drowning in her pursuit. Moved by Naya's sacrifice, the moon transformed her into a unique star of the waters, the Victoria Regia, a beautiful flower that only opens its petals at night and floats on the river's surface. That is one of the nicer stories that we get, and that's very like Greek mythology esque, right, Pete? It's funny how different cultures so far away have similar uh, ways of explaining,
Yeah, there's a similar story in China. I mean, I think all old cultures have some kind of folklore about the moon. In China, they have one about this woman who there's a love story. It ended tragically, and the long and short of it is that yeah, she flew to the moon and she has a white rabbit. That's important too. She lives on the moon with her rabbit, but she at various points has visited the Earth to seek lovers and whatnot. It's not identical, but I think the moon has always been a rich source of folklore in multiple cultures.
Yeah, yeah, and the transformation, from like a human into something in nature, or vice versa. That's always like a thread in a lot of these stories too. But that's a beautiful story. Uh, Let me get back into here because the next one's kind of funny. Another protector of the forest, and you have a lot of these kind of children spirits. The caipora, similar to the curupira. The caipora is another protective entity of the Brazilian forest. Look at that. He's smoking big there. Though its representations vary widely by region, sometimes we mean a small indigenous boy or girl who rides a peccary, a wild pig. This figure is also deeply rooted in Tupi Guarani mythology. The caipora is known for demanding tobacco as an offering before a hunt, and if placated, may allow a hunter a fair catch. If disrespected, however, the caipora will chase away prey, punish dogs, and confuse hunters until they get lost. So again, I like how a lot of these folklores are coming from indigenous culture to show what we were talking about a couple weeks back. How Professor Gustavo said that indigenous culture is very much in modern day Brazilian culture. You know, it's in the folklores, it's in the stories that they tell. There's actually a really controversial nowadays because there's some racist undertones, but Sítio do Pica Pau Amarelo was this really famous show here in Brazil, but you know, unfortunately, a show of its time. But it's all about these folklores, guys. You know, you see a few of these little creatures here, little leprechaun. We're gonna talk about him in a while. Uh, yeah, and there's like the original cast. So it's kind of like part of Brazilian regular culture is the folkloric side, even as modern as things can get sometimes. They hold on to these. The mula sem cabeça, okay, the headless mule, is a frightening myth likely introduced during the colonial era, serving as a cautionary tale rooted in Catholic morals. The legend tells of a woman who was cursed to transform into a feral, headless mule with fire blazing from her neck stump as a punishment for committing the grave sin of having an affair with a priest. She gallops to the countryside on specific nights, often Thursdays and Fridays, making terrifying sounds and trampling everyone who crosses her path. So, Pete, is this a cautionary tale more for the women or the priests? I mean, yeah, I guess it's just for the women. The priests kind of get away with their duty, but that would be kind of scary. This is for me scarier than the headless horseman. If I
Yeah,
ran into it.
pretty typical of patriarchal religions, though, where the women are usually the ones demonized.
Yeah, she gets punished, and the priest he committed a grave sin. Aren't they supposed to be celibates? You know. Well, at least he's fucking a woman. We can say that. Botu Corgi Rosa. There you go. This one I knew. Okay, the famous Botu. And, and I was introduced to this. Like, I was like, what the heck are you talking about? A friend of mine, she kept saying, it was the Botu. It was the Botu. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Because they say, like, when women have an affair and then they get pregnant, especially up in the Amazon, they'll be like, it was the Botu. Like, you know, like it was the Holy Spirit, you know? Uh, so the Botu is the pink river dolphin, which is based on an actual animal that lives up in the Amazon. It's a really cute dolphin, the pink river dolphin. Um, and it's the but the botu is a creature based on this from the Amazonian region's folklore. According to legend, the pink dolphin has the ability to transform into a handsome, well-dressed man on moonlit nights, often wearing a hat to conceal the blowhead on his head. He emerges from the river to attend village parties, seduce young single women, and impregnate them before disappearing back into the water by morning. The phrase child of the Botu is sometimes used to refer to a child whose father is unknown, as the Botu never stays to raise his offspring. There's like the deadbeat dad mythology on one end, but a way for the women to like get away with like, you know, we just screwed around and didn't pull out in time on the other side. So I don't know. There's an equal opportunity folklore. I dig it, Pete. Do they have anything like that in Canada? Like the mythical creature that fucks your wife?
No, not that I'm aware of, but that's basically the origin of Christianity, right?
Yeah, it's the Holy Spirit. Yeah. So there you go. Here in Brazil, it is the Botu. So if you have any mishaps, blame the Botu. Then we got Yara. Mãe das Águas. Okay, again, more Tupi Guarani, and not to be confused, guys, because we do have the African gods and stuff like that, but that's not necessarily considered Brazilian folklore. That's African religion influence in Brazil, and they do have very powerful gods. You know, Iemanjá, and, Ogun, and all these guys. And this is just coming from the indigenous folks mostly, but early Catholics, early that mixed with them. So Yara, Mother of the Waters or Lady of the Waters. The legend of Yara derives from indigenous Tupi and Guarani lore and has been heavily influenced by European siren mermaid myth. Yara is a beautiful indigenous woman, sometimes described as a freshwater mermaid, who sits on river rocks combing her hair. She uses her enchanting voice and irresistible beauty to lure men into the river, where they're either drowned or taken to live with her underwater forever. Her tale often explains the mysterious disappearances of men who ventured too far into the Amazonian River. It is the siren story, you know, but uh, just she's a little prettier. And then we have two more. We have the Kurupita, which we already talked about. Yeah. Is oh no. Yeah. This is a repeat, isn't it? No, this is the Kaipara. Oh, so it's very similar. Look at this. Kurupita is an ancient spirit originating from the Tupi Guarani mythology. He's the guardian of the forest and all wild animals, typically described as a small, strong indigenous boy with bright red or orange hair. His most distinguishing feature is his feet, which are turned backward. He uses this trait to confuse hunters who track his footprints, leading them astray and causing them to get hopelessly lost in the woods. His legend is a cautionary tale about respecting nature as he punishes those who hunt excessively or damage the forest wantonly. So, a lot of forest protectors in Brazilian myth. And of course, we have the top one. Okay, I think everybody that's been in Brazil, even visiting, may have seen an image or a little statue of Saci Pererê. He's perhaps the most famous figure in Brazilian folklore, celebrated as a national symbol and even having his own holiday. Historically, the Saci legend is a blend of indigenous, African, and European influences, evolving from an evil forest demon in early indigenous tales to the well-known mischievous trickster. He is a one-legged, dark-skinned boy who wears a magical red cap that grants him the power to disappear and create dust devils, little whirlwinds. His legends describe him playing minor pranks like souring milk, hiding objects, or braiding the manes of horses at night. He's basically the coyote. Like in Native American culture, we have the coyote trickster spirit. Almost every culture has a trickster spirit, and I think Brazil making this one the most famous of them all, like more than the protectors of the forest, says a lot about Brazilian culture. And that's not a criticism in a bad way. It's just Brazilians are Brazilian. They know how to swing around things. So it makes sense that the one that they would love the most is the little prankster guys. Brazilians are, yeah, they're they're trollers at heart. So that one is a great way to end it. So Pete, got a little folklore lesson tonight. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes. Yeah, some of these would have worked really well in the X Files.
I agree. Maybe when we get our reboot, which is coming soon with Ryan Coogler, okay, we may get a little bit of this. Who knows? Maybe the X Files will go global. That would be cool. That would be really cool if X Files went global. I don't know what his plans are, but that would be nice. So yeah, I saw an episode, Pete, of that show, that really stupid show that I love, called Hunting Bigfoot or something like that. They've been like, this show's run for like 17 seasons and they still haven't found Bigfoot, but I watch every season because it's so stupid. It's amazing. But they came to Brazil once and they were searching for like the Brazilian Bigfoot. It's like this swamp creature or something. Let me see. Brazilian Bigfoot. So I thought that was really nice that they did that and gave Brazil a little bit of love. Oh, there you go. Mapinguari, Brazilian folklore. That's a vocal is not available in your country. I don't even know what vocal is. Let's try it on good old Wikipedia. That's a scary looking little dude right there. I would not want to run into that in the woods. Yeah, it's a mythological creature from Brazilian folklore, referred to as the Brazilian Bigfoot. He's described as extremely foul-smelling and hairy. Other accounts of the creature refer hooked, shaped nails, bipedal gait, a gaping mouth in its belly, ugh, and a single eye like a cyclops. Man, I tell you, Brazilians do that shit up. We gotta have a Brazilian version of the X Files because Bigfoot sounds boring compared to this guy.
Yeah.
So, really, this is almost Pete. That's like when you see the Brazilian hot dog. It's like everything is gonna be all
Yep.
this. We spare no expense. um, guys, we're almost wrapping up because you can see I'm going off into La La Land. It's been a long day. Pete, what was I gonna ask you? Um, I completely forgot, but I definitely wanted to ask you something. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Before we close, are you superstitious at all?
Nope.
Even like silly shit? Do you like it? Like maybe you think it's OCD, but you're like, oh wait, I forget that I do this. Like, is there anything that you do like as a routine, like good
No.
luck charm?
No. I'm probably like the least spiritual, superstitious person you'll ever meet.
I'm almost there. I can't say I'm not spiritual. I do have like a kind of a connection. But one thing that I think is silly is like superstitions. But I do throw coins around the house. I think I've mentioned that on the show before. And it's just something that my mom did. And I was just like, why not? Because because Brazilians have a lot of superstitions, dude. I remember my mom had this whole book. Here they call them simpatias. It's this right here. Look, see, which is in English would be like old wives' tales. I guess is how they call it. Simpatias. Yeah. And some of them are actually, they can work as far as like some food stuff, diet stuff. But if you get into here, like, what is the simpatia? To bring your loved one back, to live the most beautiful love story of your life, to make envious coworkers get away from you, to raise your power of seduction. Anyway, this is just going to go on and on and on. And man, all of these, let's see. I wonder if Pete needs to heighten his power of seduction. Let's see what you got to do to heighten your power of seduction, Pete. Let's see. According to this guy, he's a very famous astrologer. Oh, so he's saying, look, you got to boil 3 rose petals, okay, with in an iron pan with 1 liter of water. And then you want to put 3 cups of coffee and the sugar, and then leave it over 5 minutes. And then throw it in the sink when it's really hot. But you got to, in your mind, you need to kind of mentalize or whatever, think about what you really desire as these roses and all that sugar is going down into your pipes, into your drain. Hold on to the petals. After they dry, put them inside of a glass and put it inside of your closet. And that's it. All right. Did you get all that, Pete? Next week you're
That's
gonna
a
get.
bit too much to recall.
Yes, I kind of went off a little bit after I lost it a little bit after the rose petals. But guys, this stuff's real, and a lot of people do this in Brazil, and I'm not hating on it, because I think, Pete, in the end, just like prayer, I think prayer works, not even because I think there's some big man in the sky that's listening to prayers, but I think it's intention. I think when you focus on something intently, and especially if you focus on that thing with various people, it's like when you go to the movies and you just have that perfect movie experience where everybody's just connected and they're all laughing at the right jokes at the right moment. And you can watch the same movie. And I think I've told this story before about Eyes Wide Shut. Like, I saw it in the art house theater. It was like the best movie ever because everybody was just like this energy. The intent was there in this movie. And then I saw it again with my family. And they thought it was going to be like a Tom Cruise porn movie. It was like in the ghetto theater. Everybody's throwing popcorn at the screen because it's an art house movie. They're like, where's the action? And I'm like, this movie's boring. Like, I started to kind of get in that vibe. I was like, man, this movie's long as fuck. I know there's nudie scenes somewhere here and it'll shut the crowd up, but it seems like it doesn't ever get there. And so with prayer, with this superstition, I think it's just a mental focus. Like you're focusing on like I want to be more seductive. I want to have more self-esteem. The
No,
roses.
in one of my textbooks, I actually I read this study about sporting superstitions,
Mhm.
like how I think Serena Williams bounces her ball 5 times before every serve.
Yes.
Ronaldo will always steps on the court with his not the court, I guess the pitch with his right foot first.
Yes.
And the research they did shows that superstitions and lucky charms and like things like this, they do have like real effect. It's not that they affect probability, but they affect your mindset and they can affect
Yeah.
you physically as well by like increasing adrenaline. So yeah, I mean, they do have their benefits, just not the supernatural kind. They're real physical and
Yes. That's
mental.
what I'm with you. That's kind of where I come at it. And it's funny because I also do believe in this kind of like a spiritual other world, but I don't even take it to that level. I think it works because one, it's repetition, so in sports, definitely, because you want to get in a rhythm. They always say that when you're playing any sport, they're like, oh, he's off rhythm today, or he's on his rhythm tonight. And what's the best way to start your rhythm is how you get into the ring or how you get onto the pitch or the field. So I think it definitely helps. And when it comes to these little, old wives' tales or whatever, like when I throw those coins in the corner, do I think those coins are going to bring me money? Not really. But at the same time, yes. Because as I'm throwing them in the corner, I'm thinking about, okay, I need to get this done and this done and this done. And you know, I need to present myself in a way, you know, where I'm going to be attracting somebody that's got this and it just kind of magically happens, so I'm not going to stop doing it. I don't want to test it. It's,
Mhm.
maybe everything would have happened the same without me throwing the coins, but, it's got to be this far. So I'm not going to stop throwing them. Uh, but just be aware of that, folks, when you do come to Brazil, how superstitious Brazilians are, um, and they may do some witchery for you just out of the blue, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't see that coming." They'll put your name in a glass jar and pray over it. Anyway, guys, I think that's enough for today. We've covered quite a few topics tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we will be on. I got to see about next week. I'm going to try, but I think next week's going to be impossible, folks, because next week it's this thing called open day at the school where I work at, and like the parents are coming in, they've got to present, and like my mind is gonna be gone, And plus, on the 20th, there's like a holiday, and I want to see if I can get away. So we will probably not be on next week, but on the 24th, I see that happening. I see that happening, and maybe we can get our movie list going, Pete, for the 24th. Uh, so let's think about that. Everyone, this is my outro music. If you want to say anything, Pete, man,
Yeah,
the most
cheers. Stay safe.
guys, stay safe out there. But come to Brazil. It's not as bad as it's like this sounds like an advertisement for New Jersey. Like it's not as bad as people say it is. You'll love it here. The taxes are high, just like in Jersey. The water's polluted, just like in Jersey. But you're also like close to New York and Philly, which are great cities to be in. In Sao Paulo and Rio, you can have a lot of fun in those cities too. Whatever floats your boat. See you guys. Till next time, like and subscribe.